Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast, and welcome to a review and preview show this week, just the one podcast, and without Ben, as you can tell if you're watching on YouTube, but we're bringing you on as always, so subscribe for all that good stuff. In today's episode, it's Richardson Hitchins' impressive win versus Kambosos Jr, Andy Cruz on the undercard as well, and any other fights we fancy talking about from last weekend. And then next weekend's fights on the preview as well. Brian Norman Jr. in Japan, as well as Galal Yafai in the UK. Lots of great stuff, lots of great content. Like I said, subscribe. As always, straight into the action. Richardson Hitchins was...
incredible.
Yeah,
Simply
impressive.
incredible. Probably his best fight in his professional career so far. You know, George Kambosos Jr. was meant to cause him probably a lot more problems than what in the end was pretty a one-sided fight from the first round. For me personally, it felt like it was going to be a long night for George, and you know, he was obviously hurt to the body, I think in round 5, and then it was just a matter of time then for Richardson to get him out of there and really just put out a statement to that division now. And you know, to get through someone like George Kambosos Jr, who doesn't shy away from fights, you know, he's tough, he's durable, and to put in that performance, yeah, just incredible. And for Hitchins now, there's so many good fights he can have, but Saturday night, when you look at his last couple of fights that he's had in the past, he struggled against some opponents that you expect him to get through quite easily.
I wouldn't say he struggled against Liam Parrow.
Was it Lemos?
It was Gustavo Lemos. He didn't look as impressive.
Yeah, in Vegas, I think that was the fight where everyone was like, yeah, this guy should be getting through him within the distance, and he obviously went the distance that night. But yeah, that Liam Parrow fight...
yeah, but look, you don't knock out an Argentinian.
I know,
I say this.
That's your theory. And
Keyshawn Davis, the problem is Keyshawn Davis knocked him out a little bit later.
Yeah.
But upper weight class and off the back of, I believe, losing either his mother or father that week.
Probably.
Not ideal circumstances.
Yeah.
I think you say that the one thing interesting, you say Kambosos Jr, brave, good scrapper. And let's be real, that's what got him the undisputed fight, was being brave and ultimately being quick. But in this one, it had all the feelings of... almost like Kambosos' last fight, where it's like this other opponent just feels like they're not at the level. Hitchins looked a cut above, which when we're talking about a former undisputed champion is mental to say. But it is true. He didn't look anywhere near the level of Hitchins on the night.
Well, as we previewed it last week, we were expecting a close fight, a tough fight, and he just made it look easy. You know, how many times have we seen George Kambosos Jr. in there with opponents, and he's made them work hard for that victory? You know, Devin Haney was a sort of fight where, oh my God, he's testing Haney here, and then Hitchins comes around and just it was a masterclass in a way. And you know, he's now a free agent. You know, I don't know if that's probably the wisest of decisions after a fight, but who knows?
We can get onto that a little bit after the performance, because I think it's interesting, that whole thing. But just with Hitchins, it was the speed of Kambosos that I thought would cause him problems. I wouldn't have been shocked if Kambosos had won that fight.
Did we all predict that it would go the distance? Or did...
I think we did, yeah. I think we did. I can't remember, to be honest, because I don't think we did it on the Box News app, so I just kind of I lose track of it all then. But I just thought Kambosos would be quick and would cause him problems, but he just kept in the range so well, Hitchins. He kept him on the end of his jab, really sharp, really measured. And like you say, then when in the 5th round, I think it was first, like you said, he hurt him. He turned up the pace and stuck it on him. Didn't get him out of there. Thought, you know what? Pull back a little bit. Slow down. That body shot in the 8th round to drop him was nasty.
There's nothing better in boxing than a good body shot, isn't it?
Well, unless you're the one on the receiving end of it,
true.
then you're thinking there's not worse than a body shot.
But he's good at sticking to the game plan, ain't he, Hitchins? You know, they've obviously had a game plan there that they knew that they had the reach. He was quicker than him and all that. And sometimes that can be something negative for a fighter, that they just stick to the game plan. They don't do anything else in the fight. But for Hitchins, he just went exactly how they planned it. And yeah, it's just, like I said, incredible performance. And you don't do that against a fighter like Kambosos Jr, I don't think. The way he stopped
Not often. I mean, obviously, Kambosos is coming up a weight class from where he was. But he's brave, but you could say then, therefore, he won't be able to ride those shots quite as well and wear them quite as well as he did when he was a lightweight.
But you've got to take your hat off to Kambosos as well. Teofimo Lopez 1, Vasily Lomachenko, Devin Haney ×2.
He's done
and
so
now
well.
Hitchins. fair play to him. And that's what you like about boxers as well. I like a boxer who just doesn't say no to a fight.
Yeah,
just takes on anyone and takes on any challenge. Went to Richardson's backyard and, yeah, just unbelievable. And Kambosos Jr., like you said, in his last fight, what was it, against Jake Wiley in Australia, late call-up opponent, he looked good at that weight. And, yeah, just Hitchins looked a level above. But Kambosos Jr., what was that, his second fight at this new weight?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked all right, but Hitchins just sensational.
I would say, yeah, it's more that Hitchins looked too good and Kambosos looked
better at the weight.
Too bad.
You can tell he's been at that weight longer.
I don't even think the weight's the thing. I just think Hitchins was too good, really. He just was. He just kept him in the distance, which, negates... Kambosos' biggest issue is he's quick and he's awkward and he's constantly feinting, and then so when he does let his hands go, because he's constantly feinting and he's so quick, you get caught with shots you didn't expect to get caught with. And Hitchins was able to read him, keep himself distance, do the work he needed to do, and ultimately cruise to a victory. On to, that would have been a great segue for Andy Cruz, but we're going to talk about first Richardson Hitchins' free agency, as he announced. Eddie's not too happy about it, obviously. I think that's mental, completely bizarre from Richardson Hitchins. I don't think he gets much better a deal elsewhere. You've just been put in Madison Square Garden, in nigh on your hometown. I think he's from Brooklyn, so close enough. In Madison Square Garden, against a former undisputed champion, main event. You've won the fight. You've defended your world title. What more do you want? What's the PBC? What's Top Rank? What's anyone going to give to you that they haven't already?
Oh, I agree. I think he'll look back at what he said after the fight and probably be thinking, what have I done here? Eddie's given him the biggest fights that he wants. And, that Liam Parrow fight, I think if he didn't have Eddie Hearn, I don't think that fight would have ever been made. And to come out now and say he's a free agent after that is a bit weird. And let's not forget as well that Hitchins on Saturday night, what was it? It was MSG, but it was the theatre at MSG, yes. Wasn't it? So it was like 3,000, however many was in there. They're all there for him. But if he didn't have Eddie Hearn as a promoter, would he be fighting in New York? Because a lot of the other promoters fight a lot out of Vegas, on the western side of America a lot of the time. And yeah, I'm not a fan of it. And whoever picks him up now, I believe reading stuff on Instagram and Twitter, there's Oscar De La Hoya said, are you available and all that?
Of course he has, yeah.
So who knows? But for me, after that performance, wrong decision.
I think Hitchins is a great fighter. He's a great fighter. I think he'll fight for more world titles. He might pick up multiple world championships. I wouldn't be surprised. He will do bigger and better things in the future, but he's not the biggest name. He's far from the biggest name in the sport. The proof is in the pudding that we're doing one podcast this week rather than two, because we didn't necessarily have the content to talk about his fight, because he's not that big a name. No. And a world title fight against George Kambosos Jr. in Madison Square Garden, albeit theatre, can't be cheap. I'd be shocked if Eddie Hearn's made money, let alone...
Well, he's admitted that he's lost money doing it.
Well, there you go. So, and I just think...
And it's weird as well that normally this sort of stuff is kept behind closed doors, ain't it? So you can tell that there's a little bit of frustration there from Matchroom's point of view that they've built this guy up and now he's just gone, right, thanks,
Could it
guys.
Be a little bit of money tactics? You saw it with, completely different sport, but Rooney did it about 6 times at Man United, said, I'm leaving, and then magically the money was coughed up for a new contract. Could he just be saying, look, albeit you've done great things for me, if you don't pay me what I think I'm worth, I'm more than happy to walk? And they're kind of almost trying to call Matchroom's bluff a little bit in that sense.
Yeah, it's happened twice though now, hasn't it, with Matchroom as well. Edgar Berlanga, another one. He got that Canelo fight, got the biggest payday of his career, and then went to a different promotional company after that fight.
I think it's
just it's weird. You can't take away from his performance on Saturday night, but now the talking points is not the performance. It's all about he's left Matchroom and what's next for him now. Eddie Hearn must have had a plan. After you beat Kambosos Jr., this is the fight we're going to look for you next. But now it's back to zero, and now they're back to the drawing board of looking at potential opponents. And it's quite funny in the ring afterwards. I think Hitchins was calling out several names, and Teofimo Lopez wasn't one of them. But Teofimo Lopez was the guy in the ring at the time, which was quite funny. But yeah, I just don't get it.
Yeah, when you look at champions at the weight, you've got Teofimo Lopez, Subriel Matias is fighting Alberto Puello.
Yeah. That's coming up soon.
In a few weeks. Other than that, it's not the most stacked division in the world. I think the Teofimo Lopez is probably the fight to make. I think it probably is the fight that will happen.
Who's Lopez with? Top Rank?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
but
so
it's because Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Rolly Romero, all moved up to welterweight from super lightweight. And so there is a bit of a gap for him to fill in terms of if he wants to be the next big thing. But like we said, I just think Matchroom's probably the place to do it rather than...
Well, we've seen it before, haven't we, so many times. But, oh well, he'll soon realise.
I was going to say, yeah, his loss. Andy Cruz, a man at Matchroom who's going to be going to places pretty damn soon. That was...
brutal, as expected, I think. When you have an opponent so static in front of you, there's only one outcome, I believe. And he got that outcome.
I think that the issue that Mishiro had is he's a tall fighter. He's quite big for a lightweight, but so's Andy Cruz. Mm-hmm. And so suddenly you get caught thinking, hold on, I have everyone at the end of my jab, and this guy isn't actually all that far away. And with the ability that Andy Cruz has, he's going to cause anyone problems. And it just felt like he was just teeing off on him. He was just having his fun, doing what he wanted to do, landing the shots he wanted to land. And, down twice in round 3, down in round 5 to finish it off. And it was from probably the end of the first, halfway through the second, you were like, yeah, this isn't going the distance.
Especially when you're coming forward with Mishiru and he wasn't moving his head.
No,
where's the head movement?
But that is the negative of being a long fighter, a tall fighter, where you don't have to move your head if they can't reach it.
But I think
Andy Cruz. I think Andy Cruz was able to not be much smaller. He's huge as a lightweight, but actually, like I said, he was just able to close that little distance he had very well, and then suddenly, like you say, you look really static because you're used to just keeping them on the end of it.
Yeah, and what's he now? 6-0. 5-0, one or the other.
6-0, I think it is, and as
he's
close as it gets.
On the edge of a massive, massive fight, ain't he? Let's be honest. He's not that far away from world titles, and he's another one that, let's be honest, when we started this podcast, I personally didn't know much about him.
I remember him from the Olympics. I remember watching the Olympics and remember him, but I hadn't known that he'd turned over pro until, like you said, Jared mentioned it. And
so happy you mentioned him.
Yeah, big time. He is special.
Really good fighter, and he's got that Cuban style, but he doesn't punch like a Cuban boxer, does he?
No, and do you know what? I think you say he's got the Cuban style, but I don't. He's a very good boxer, and that's probably as close as it gets to being Cuban in the sense of he boxes brilliantly, but he's not on the back foot. No. He's on the front foot. He's not coming in and out of range. It's similar to that sort of Soviet style, but he's not. He's like you say, planting his feet. And we spoke about that in terms of how that came about and why that's come about with Bozy Ennis and whatnot. But he's kind of left that. He's just, all he's done is bring the boxing IQ and the ability to throw the right shots in the right way. Mm-hmm. Other than that, it's just a good professional performance.
Yep. As expected, like I said, Teremoana. Again.
You missed a few.
I know. Well, you're David Diamante when you do that. Another brilliant performance by someone that, at the moment, you can't get excited because, as for a lot of these fights, well, with Andy Cruz, it was expected for him to get him out of there within the distance. And now, I think the idea for Eddie Hearn now is to potentially get him in there with someone that's going to give him rounds, because at the moment, it's a bit like, I'm not comparing him to Moses Ataima before anyone says, oh my God.
Yeah, they're different fighters.
You're going to struggle to find him opponents that are going to test him. And it's the same with Ataima. Maris Vac was meant to give him rounds. That didn't go to plan. And for Teremoana now, Eddie Hearn's got the plan of bringing him to the UK, back to America and all that. He needs rounds as a professional. This early on in your career, you need to get the rounds banked. And, if you keep on blowing out your opponents within 3 rounds, when you make that next step up, we don't know what to expect from you when the going gets tough. And, that's where you need to get the matchmaking a lot better. And let's be honest, this fight, he was meant to be fighting in Australia last week and he didn't. And now he's flown halfway across the world to fight in America. To do that is fair play to him, but I just need to see him in longer fights.
Yeah.
And it's okay getting these sort of fights where you're still learning and all that, but it becomes a matter of time before it's just, you've had enough learning now. And there's so many names going around the place. For me, a great fight for him, to give him rounds, give him a little bit of a test, Dempsey McKee. But again, you can make the argument there is it's too early.
Yeah, I think the thing with Teremoana is you make the Atoma, and I agree with the early stoppages, but he's not anywhere close to that level right now, or shown nowhere near that level. The surgical precision at which Atoma got people out of there.
No, what I mean, I'm not comparing him to
No,
Atoma,
I know, but what Teremoana, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
Hugely powerful. But actually, with as much power and as much trouble he caused his opponent early on, he probably shouldn't have been in there as long as he was. Mm-hmm. He's not shown. There's not yet been a clean performance. It's not yet been a polished performance where he lands that one shot on the button
and then bang,
and he's gone. And he has the power to do it, because as soon as he lands one shot, all of his opponents go into full defense mode.
He punches through his opponent though.
But if you're if you're going to be a top heavyweight, full defense mode shouldn't be a problem. You should be cleaning him out. And I just think,
I know what you mean.
And you say he does need rounds. He needs someone awkward, and it's more of a heavyweight problem, I think, than a Teremoana problem, that it's so hard to build them up because they hit so hard. And then there's almost heavyweight. There's this really big pronounced gap between journeyman, decent heavyweights, great heavyweights, and between each of those three sections, there's vast differences. And he currently sits in decent heavyweights, I'd say.
Yeah.
And so I don't think, without causing him a genuine issue or a genuine problem, you're going to find the perfect heavyweight that's going to be able to take those shots, last the distance, and not have some genuine questions coming back the other way. And maybe that's what he needs, but I wouldn't call it a brilliant performance yet. I'm yet to be impressed by him.
Yeah, well, stoppages are brilliant, but like you said, if he's up against better opposition, does those stoppages not come, and does he get hit more cleaner? Because he is that type of fighter that keeps his guard down low when he's on the attack and doesn't have that. And that's something that you need to quickly get away from as a fighter moving through the ranks. Is you keep coming forward with your guard down, you're going to get found out. You're going to get hit by something that, probably against a fighter like he was up against on Saturday night, that when you come forward against a decent level of opposition, when you get that shot landed on you, it could have a different reaction. And yeah, just Australia heavyweights at the moment. Australia, I think, is slowly but surely becoming a sort of destination for good fighters. Jai Opetaia, Sky Nicholson, Justice Hooney just last week was so unlucky. He nearly announced himself as a really good top 10 heavyweight fighter against Fabio Wardley in Ipswich. And, you've got the likes of Teremoana coming through now. But George Kambosos Jr. is
Max
another brilliant.
McIntyre is a good fight that they've had on those Tasman fight shows.
Like you said, I'm impressed, but I'm not excited as of yet.
Did you expect anything different from him this early on?
No.
And that's why I think
that's the whole point of...
If anything, I maybe expected a little better performances, which is mental to say because he's just got a first-round knockout, but...
Do you reckon it's all the commercial side of things as well with Teremoana? He's very easy to promote.
Yeah, and I think he'll do very well for Matchroom, but I think if we're talking about him as someone that's going to even reach the levels of the Fabio Wardleys and Justice Hooneys, he's got a long way to go, because I think at this point, someone like, he's 7-0, someone like Fabio Wardley would be rubbing his hands together if Teremoana was stood opposite him. Someone like Justice Hooney is probably rubbing his hands together thinking, I can outbox you.
This is the guy below me.
This is the guy I can outbox for 10 rounds and not get caught with the magic shot. He needs to show more. But, with every fighter on this card, bar Nishant Dev, they all got a stoppage, and they all did so pretty comfortably. And Nishant Dev got a point decision very comfortably.
It was a decent card, and another one on there. Adamaka.
Yeah, good performance.
Very, very confident fighter prior to his debut, obviously on the Ariel Helwani show, stating that he would fight Inoue in his next fight or even in his professional debut and beat him. Yeah. It goes back to what Johnny Nelson said, didn't it, to you? As a fighter, you need to have a little bit of... What was the word?
He basically said you need the absolute utmost blind belief, whether it's justified or not, that
Arrogance.
you are the best in the world. It is arrogance.
Yeah.
But it's just to go in there with the confidence of doing what you want to do, how you want to do it against everyone. You have to believe that there's no chance you lose, or else if that fear creeps in, we've seen it with people like Anthony Joshua, who was once, and actually I think that was where this conversation came about with Johnny Nelson, was he was talking about AJ, where he stopped believing he was the best in the world for a while, worried about the big shots, and therefore wasn't letting his own go. Adam Acker believes he's able to beat Inoue. I'm not going to bite on that. I know what he's doing. He's either convincing himself or just trying to get a bit of commercial.
Get the headlines, yeah.
Exactly. He wouldn't.
No.
And I think deep down he probably knows he wouldn't. But fair enough. He's not bad. We'll have to see some more coming on up. Anything else from this card to pick apart before we move on over to some other things to discuss? Obviously, at Andy Cruz.
There's a lot of pullouts as well in this card, weren't there? There was 2 fights that we lost, and the 2 fights from our preview last week that we were not arguing over, but bickering, I think's the word, with our predictions with the 2 heavyweights in the Mikado fight. Gutted that we didn't get to see them, but that happens in boxing, and we are seeing a lot more fights getting, cancelled on the night. It's a bit like the UFC now. They're catching the bug from the UFC, but another thing happening over in the States that did come out either Saturday or Sunday, it could have even been Friday or Thursday last week, was Vergil Ortiz Jr. as well.
With of course, I know it was on Saturday, wasn't it?
Was it Saturday? So
Ben
it was
showed us on Saturday at the show. Yeah,
he's got a load of fights now, no contest. Israel Madrimov, one of them.
There's a lot coming at the moment in terms of I can't remember who it was who said it to me, and they didn't give any more, so I can't really say it without some serious libel, but. I think VADA isn't quite as airtight as expected. There's a lot coming out at the moment. I think we're probably on the verge of some bubble bursting at some point. And it goes back to, again, can't remember the name of the guy, a famous doctor who everyone takes a picture with on Instagram and is probably deleting them by now, said that all your favourite fighters are doing it.
I know the one you're talking about.
It's just whoever's doing it best and not getting caught, basically. It's a sad state of affairs. And like I said, I think without A, dropping us in some legal issues, and B, just a load of speculation, I think we'll probably have to wait for the bubble to burst before.
Well, I think everyone...
But it's poor, because I liked Ortiz Jr.
Yeah.
I thought the Madrimov performance was very good, but not good because of any great improvement that would have been done by any performance. It was just a very smart performance. I watched a video of... I watched the highlights back, and he was so smart on that night. You know, there was a point where I think he smacked the lead glove down of Madrimov, and then Madrimov put it back up to block the head, and he's just ripped him to the body. And it's like, that's just good boxing. You don't need... It's just frustrating.
It is a shame, and we've seen it so many times now. And it's not even just failing drug tests and all that. It's missing weight. Keyshawn Davis last week and everything with all that. And it's just unprofessional. And we're here talking about, what a performance by Vergil Ortiz Jr. against Madrimov. Now it's stained by the failed drug test and all that. Everyone knows, watching and listening, what doctor you're talking about and what picture that we all the picture's in our heads right now, and it is a matter of time before something does come out and the bubble is burst. And it's just not good to see. And with boxing now being back in the limelight, so to say, with all what's happening with Riyadh and Saudi Arabia's involvement in the sport, boxing, a bit like comparing it to darts now, everything you do is getting checked, and is the mainstream media is going to look at even more now because it's bigger than what it was. And yeah, it's good to see that VADA are testing. Obviously, they get tested all the time, but it's a bit annoying now that we're seeing fighters failing drug tests, and you're like, come on, guys, you've got so much potential. Why? Why are you doing this?
We did say, though, when Ryan Garcia got done, and he got, a year ban, we said, Ryan Garcia only fights once a year. This isn't a ban. This is a slap on the wrist.
And the thing is, with
a little fine. And we said this is going to set the precedent that, do you know what? You can probably get away with it. And I'm not trying to do we told you so sort of thing. That wasn't exactly a revolutionary claim we made there. But
it is, well,
told you so.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Some boxers are probably looking at it and thinking, 1 year ban. Oh well, that's happy days.
Ryan Garcia walked back into a big fight.
I can box in April, have the summer off, get back in camp, and then fight 2 weeks after my ban's over with.
Yeah, in another big fight.
Yeah, something needs to change there, and I don't know what needs to change. Longer bans, probably. You know, it's cheating at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think personally, people will say it's too hard line. If you get caught with a substance in your system, you get banned indefinitely until you can prove otherwise.
Yeah.
And if you can't prove otherwise, you don't get to step in the ring. And I just think that's as it should be. And yes, okay, there is going to be a very small amount of people that are probably wrongly done, harshly done by that. But to be honest, there's a couple people that are hardly done by that. Yeah. There's probably hundreds of fighters that will be banned indefinitely from that, and that's a net positive. Mm-hmm. You know, let's be real. Okay, let's put a little hashtag next to that. Unless you've eaten eggs, we'll say that. That's all right then.
Again, you know the fighter we're talking about.
Yeah.
Without even saying its name.
But
talking about that fight of mine, the fighter that he fought, Chris Eubank Jr.
Getting in trouble with the
British Boxing Border Control, another £100,000 fine for using saunas.
Yeah.
Naughty.
Ah, well.
We all use saunas though, don't we?
Yeah. But that was only buzzed because, hey, he went and just told everyone, put a video on Instagram showing he did it, told everyone on Stephen Bartlett's podcast he did it. Yeah. And then they still didn't do anything until people started going, hold on, why the British Boxing Border Control not got... And they finally
it all comes back to the Adam Azim Chavez fight, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
If that didn't get called off, then it would have been a bit of a... Well, how have you allowed it for that fight, but not this fight? You know?
Yeah, it's all a bit of a mess. But before we get on to a mess related to that exact conversation, Sam Noakes, Abdullah Mason, replacing Keyshawn Davis is world... WBO, I believe it is lightweight champion. Great fight.
Unbelievable.
A fight I feel confident that will probably, maybe even possibly get in the UK. If not, maybe Riyadh. I would be dare to say it'll definitely be the test of Abdullah Mason's career so far.
Same with Sam Noakes.
Yeah. How does it go?
You're asking...
Vaguely speaking.
It's a good fight. It's a really, really good fight, and it's a tough one to call because obviously Abdullah Mason, I can't remember how many fights he's had now, but he hasn't really had to do too much in his professional career so far against opposition. He's been dropped a couple of times. You know, that one fight last year, incredible. He got dropped, I think, twice in it. So he's obviously, there is probably confidence there from Noakes' team that they can get to him. It's good that it's obviously a Queensberry fighter and a top-ranked fighter. This fight should happen because they work very closely together, those promotional companies. Sam Noakes, he's been on an upward trajectory, hasn't he? You know, he's been fighting at the York Hall and all that. What's he got? European, British.
Basically, British, European.
He's gone for everything. And Abdullah Mason obviously main evented last time out. It was meant to be Keyshawn Davis that night. It's a tough one to call, but I don't know.
Some PR answer that, by the way. You've just laid out the facts and then given no opinion.
I'm swerving around it because I know what your answer would be. I'm a massive fan of Abdullah Mason, but is it the right time? Maybe not.
I think the way I see it, and I've made no secret of the fact I'm a huge Sam Noakes fan. Have been from as soon as we started the podcast. I share the name. You know, Sam, it's in my passport. It's in my ID. It's in my wallet.
What, Sam Noakes is?
No, it's just mine. I've got a little picture of him. A little. I'm a huge fan of his, and despite that, I do think Abdullah Mason would have to be the favourite going into it. But I do think when Abdullah Mason gets in there, and he does what he always does, puts his hands on his opponent and looks to get them out of there. Sam Noakes, I don't think he'll be shifted early. I think he'll be able to ride those shots early on, certainly. And that might be a little bit of a, hang on about. This guy's here to play. And then if Sam Noakes is able to land a few back on Abdullah Mason, it'll be a nice little, okay, this guy's got a bit. He does have to be the favourite, Abdullah Mason. He has to be.
Yeah.
but it's not an easy test. And
I like what you said there, though, because Abdullah Mason hasn't had that as an opposition where they're throwing back big shots that Sam Noakes will, and we know that Sam Noakes can take those shots.
Yeah, I mean, a 14 knockout streak, the only people he hasn't stopped is even Mendy, who's a solid fucker, and Ryan Walsh, who's never been stopped by anybody, and on that night threatened the referee that if he did stop it, he'd kill him. So, basing off that...
Allegedly, or did he actually say that?
Well, he did say that, yeah, but I don't know, yeah. He did say that. So, in theory, he stops anyone who's stoppable, basically.
Yeah.
And I just think it will be... Let's put it this way. If Abdullah Mason's team could pick an opponent for the WBO title, it wouldn't have been Sam Noakes. No. If this wasn't ordered, they're not going, yeah, we'll fight Sam Noakes for the WBO. So... They
would go for an easier option. Probably.
It's a good fight.
It's a hell of a fight. Hopefully, like you said, hopefully that's in the UK, because that'd be great viewing, and it'd probably be the sort of fight where Sam Noakes is wanting it in the UK, because he is a big ticket seller as well, isn't he? And
he's a decent he's a decent ticket seller.
If Queensberry's smart, they've got a young fighter in Abdullah Mason. Get it in the UK.
Yeah.
Bring him to the Lions then.
Get him in the York Hall.
Get him in the York Hall.
Stick him in some dingy changing room.
Friday night.
No, I think for me, Sam Noakes is one of those, you see those things on Instagram, it's like ability and hype.
Yeah.
And they're separate. I think he has the opportunity in this fight, if he gets the win, people will go, hang about. Who's this guy? And it will, blast him up to stardom. If he loses it, I think he'll come again, because he's won everything there is to win at domestic level and done so pretty much stopping everyone en route. So he will come back. Good fight, ultimately.
Very good fight.
Looking forward to it.
Hopefully that gets made September time, October time, and fingers crossed here in the UK.
Yeah, maybe, or if you got that Moses Atoma, Dillian White card, been confirmed now with Hrgovic Adelaide, which we didn't expect to see.
A fight that, at first glance of it, you were like, why the hell are them pair fighting? But now you're like, that's going to be a tasty heavyweight matchup. And
it's a fight sort of on the edge of the top 10 pound for pound list, fighting Filip Hrgovic.
Okay.
Just a while. If you didn't watch our top 10 pound for pound, Harry put Hrgovic in there for the heavyweights, or top 10 heavyweights, sorry.
Yeah.
Me and Ben quite literally laughed.
Which shut me down, bullied me off camera.
Yeah.
Quite surprised I'm still here, to be honest.
Yeah, you've done well. But yeah, that'll be an interesting fight. Maybe you could stick it on that card.
Early prediction, I'll give mine. I think it'll be a very close Noakes points decision.
What, on the Abdullah Mason fight? I think it's a stoppage.
Could it be?
I'm going to say a Sam Noakes stoppage. It is.
In a way. Could you compare this fight to a sort of what we saw last year, where people are going, what are Top Rank doing with Jared Anderson and Martin Bacoli? Could you do that, where it's maybe potentially like that's too much of a jump up?
I think Abdullah Mason is and has proved a lot more than Jared Anderson had at that point, and Sam Noakes hasn't proved as much as Martin Bacoli had at that point.
When did Sam Noakes beat Ivan Mendy for the European? Was it late last year?
Early last year.
Early. People have got Abdullah Mason still as a prospect as well, which is incredible. That's
just because of his age. Yeah. He's what, 20-something and I think he's 20 and he's 20. He's 19 and he's 21.
The NBA's continental titles and all that, hasn't he? So
I think
it makes
Abdullah Mason has done more than Jared Anderson had, and Sam Noakes hasn't done quite as much as Martin Bacoli had. And so to make that comparison is to a point, but not fully the case. Obviously, hopefully, if it's in the UK, it will be on DAZN as opposed to in Top Rank on ESPN or wherever they put it on.
If it's on Top Rank, it'd be Sky as well. Wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, it will be on Sky on a fight-by-fight basis, as it looks like possibly Sky have offered to Boxxer. Obviously, that's not been confirmed by either party yet, so we'll speak purely as speculation. If Boxxer were no longer to be on Sky Sports Boxing, is that a shame?
Yes, because obviously there's always been one big promoter from the early 90s that have been on Sky Sports showing boxing, and it was Frank Warren was there, then Eddie Hearn. Basically, Sky Sports maybe in a way created the monster that is Matchroom Boxing now. The fights and the budget that they gave Matchroom built up AJ to the huge fighter that he is. And obviously when they left to DAZN, here came Boxxer, a young promoter. And it hasn't really reached the heights of what Matchroom did on Sky. You know, Matchroom had massive pay-per-views on a more regular basis. With Boxxer, it was more of, you know, a new promoter with young fighters. The future of the sport, in a way, was advertised as. And they haven't really got going. There hasn't been big box office fights apart from the Riyadh season events on Sky, and potentially the only big box office fight that they've had was Chris Eubank Jr. against Liam Smith. I think they did that twice. Kell Brook and Mir Khan was another one.
I was going to say, Kell Brook and Mir Khan is the one that springs to mind. That was a massive event.
But I don't even think both fighters were boxer fighters though.
No, but it was a boxer event.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It would have been a Mir Khan, I imagine, wouldn't have been.
It's just, when you look back, and I'm a big fan of what Sky Sports do with boxing and their coverage. Obviously, they've done a lot with the amateur scene now with the Manchester Boxing Cup as well.
Yeah.
It's a little bit disappointing, but from the cards and the quality of cards that Boxxer have produced, I'm not surprised that Sky have gone, we're not renewing. Allegedly not renewing their contracts. And listen, if the DAZN's watching this or listening to what's happening with Boxxer now, they're probably like, come on, we'll have you on our shows. But I like your reaction there. Where do they fit in? Because Friday night's full, Saturday night's got Queensberry Matchroom cards, Sunday's got Top Tier. Do they just go up against Top Tier on a Sunday? Do they put, you know, a Boxxer show always on a Sunday now and a Matchroom show on a Saturday and a Queensberry show on a Saturday?
To go midweek. I think
it's incredible.
From what I've heard, again, allegedly, DAZN aren't interested.
Okay.
TNT gave an offer
TNT
that Boxxer weren't interested in, allegedly. And how many times can we say allegedly in this sentence? I think we're covered, right? No, so that's what people are saying. That's the rumours. But I think ultimately it's a shame because Boxxer have a handful of
promising,
exciting, interesting, fun, commercial, likeable fights. And, you know, let's frame all of this. They've looked after us as a channel very well.
Oh, massively.
They've been really, really kind to us very early on. The Lauren Price card in Wales.
Incredible.
You know, I think there's only one card I can think of that we tried to get someone into. And we tried to get me and you into Billum Smith Reactor.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 or 3 of us into that and we didn't get in. But other than that, they've really looked after us and they're lovely guys involved in it. And from that point of view, from us, I think it's a shame if they don't have their Sky contract going forward. But like you say, I just think there's been a couple mistakes here and there. A few poor cards, a few filler cards, a bit of misfortune in terms of pullouts and injuries and whatnot. And all of that together has just, like you say, underperformed slightly.
Well, you just look at, you know, some cards where they've got 6-rounders.
It was that Liverpool card, I think, that said it all.
But we all know what should have been on that date.
Tasha Jonas versus...
It should have been... Lauren Price was meant to be fighting December 14th in Cardiff. But obviously something went wrong there.
It was meant to be in like October, and then it got pushed back, got pushed back.
Listen, like you said, Boxxer have been very kind to us. You know, not many promotional companies will allow us to go here, there and everywhere.
That early on.
Well, we were small at the time and we got to interview so many of them, and Ben Shalom's obviously very open to doing interviews with smaller channels. You know, we've gone to Queensberry.
He's also got one of the best clips ever on this channel with the one on TikTok.
I don't know if he's a big fan of that, mind.
I don't know. He laughed. But yeah, like you said,
he laughed, and then you might have to cut that out.
Yes.
And, yeah.
I've stitched him up a bit with the edit. He said that long way after. But no, I think, yeah, it's a shame for a lot of reasons. But like you say, I'm not necessarily surprised.
Do you reckon now fighters are probably thinking, if I'm not going to be on a big platform like Sky, you know, I completely forgot mine. TNT haven't got a boxing promotional company on there, so that could be a way. But for some boxers now, like Callum Simpson and all, you know, let's not forget, Boxxer started off on their YouTube channel, live streaming events. One of my favourite sort of tournaments that they did were quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then a big final, you know, the heavyweights, the cruiserweights. They did all that, and that was brilliant. And then obviously they went on TNT Sports, and then out of nowhere, really, I think it was if I remember rightly, it might have been in lockdown that they signed with Sky, and everyone's like, "Ooh, okay." this is interesting and very bold move by Sky. And obviously over the years, they've put together some decent cards, decent fights. But with Sky, you need value for money, and they haven't really been given that, really. You know, Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clark card was probably one of the best cards Boxxer have put together. Callum Simpson's card last week. But the one thing that
I enjoyed Billum Smith Rakpor at Selhurst Park as well.
The thing is, we talk about that the cards haven't got quality on there, but the matchups or the fights
were better.
Were really good.
We've had a lot of good fights.
But they just, I don't know. But hopefully they get a new home, and if it's not with Sky, and if it's not with TNT, hopefully it's on DAZN. But then where does that leave Sky with boxing? You know, they've, like I said, they've been involved in boxing from the early 90s.
The talk is that they're going to just pick and cherry pick what fights they want.
Yeah, but
and that it does make a lot more sense for a platform like Sky, in the sense of they don't have to have them all night. They can just say, we want the back three of this card. You know, what does that cost to a promoter?
But where does it'd be a bit like Wasserman then.
Well, they have Boxxer. A number of Boxxers undercards were always on YouTube. Same with DAZN and Matchroom.
Yeah,
the same.
It'll be a bit like what Wasserman Boxing are like with Channel 5. They'll have all their undercard fights on YouTube, and just the main event is on Channel 5, and then they show the highlights afterwards.
Yeah, or they'll pick kind of one or two or three, whatever. But I think, but also it won't be just. It will be. Yeah. You know, they'll want to pick Riyadh season cards. They'll want to pick Ring Magazine cards. They'll want to pick, you know, top rank cards. They'll want to pick Golden Boy cards. They that's the idea, I think, is what they're going for, and that's what I think the model they will approach. We'll have to wait and see. I think, like we said, this is kind of all speculation because.
Well,
we don't even know this.
According to No Smoke Boxing,
and some mug reporter
Ben Thomas reporting on it, breaking the news and
big
all
reporter.
That. Yeah, mental.
And a good one as well. The next weekend's fights, the preview. We've made you guys wait a little bit longer for this one. We got a bit carried away.
Do you know, we were panicking about this episode, weren't we? About the timing and all.
Could have done 3.
We could have done 3 episodes.
We could have done, yeah. Maybe it's Ben that slows us down. Maybe that's the
extra
time.
Okay,
let's who knows? Yeah, that could have gone anywhere. Galal Yafai fighting on a Matchroom card. We'll do the predictions at the end, but we'll talk about that now. It's a decent fight for him, defending his WBC interim. He picked up after beating Sonny Edwards convincingly the back end of last year, I believe it was. On our British pound for pound list, good fighter. Would you expect him to get through this one?
Yeah, even though he's admitted that it's probably his toughest fight.
I don't agree.
As a pro, he said the article I read. He was.
Yeah, but he's not going to go. This one will be pish. I'll walk through this.
The article started off. That was my biggest fight in my career against Sonny Edwards, and then ended with "This is my biggest fight in my career." So it's a bit weird, but
is it one of those every fight's the biggest fight?
Yeah,
like the next one's always the biggest kind of.
It's a good matchup, mind. I think fair play for Yafai. Obviously, the interim WBC title holder. There's some Japanese fella above him, I believe, that's got the full WBC belt.
Yeah.
And he potentially could be moving up weight. So this is massive for not only Yafai, but British boxing, because if he gets through this, and then the fighter above him that got the full WBC belt moves up, then we've got another world champion here in Britain. But it's a decent fight. Rodriguez... of his 6 losses, his last 2 against multiple division champions.
Yeah, he's had some big ones.
Nakatani in 2022.
Chocolatito, he lost
the only stoppage in his career has come to Chocolatito. So
is it Ioka, the Japanese fighter? I believe he lost to as well.
That was in 2021.
He's a decent enough fighter, but it's one that you'd expect your fight to win, I think.
Oh, massively. But it's a sort of fight where you're looking forward to what's next for your fight, and this. Like we put him in our top 5 pound for pound British fighters. He's one that back in 2020 won the gold medal. He's just
2021.
2021, yeah,
2020 Olympics.
2020 Olympics.
2021
and he's also said as well that he's not afraid to go to Japan and fight Kenshiro Taraji for that title as well. So that's what you love to see, and it's a decent card as well. You know, Conor Walker, Liam Taylor for the British welterweight title.
That's a great fight. Conor Walker, you could. I actually don't need to look at the name over on the other side of the card. Conor Walker's always in a good fight, and I think this was another one. Liam Taylor's got enough to cause Conor Walker issues, but Conor Walker's never out of a fight. We saw that last time against, the name evades me. that he beat.
It wasn't Lewis Ritson. That was
No. But yeah, just a quality operator, Conor Walker. Difficult. Just the epitome of British boxing, isn't he? He's just that heart, grit.
We're not going to say what we normally say, but that could be sleeper of the weekend there. Peter McGrail against Baluta. Baluta knows how to cause upsets in a way that not many people see coming, and he's tough. And
he reminds me a little bit of someone like Thomas Asomba that Rhys Edwards fought, where he's always game. He's an away fighter, and they match him up, and every time you think, why have you matched him up against him? Because he's so awkward. He can win any fight he's in. He's got the ability. Our good friend of the channel, Dan Francis, manages him at Vote Boxing as well.
Does he?
Yeah,
he's never mentioned that.
I know. Yeah, he doesn't. You don't hear much from Dan. He likes to keep himself on the quiet. But obviously, Peter McGrail comes off the back of a win against Rhys Edwards in close fashion.
Very close.
With the last minute pull out.
Let's be honest as well. It wasn't the best of performances because many people had Rhys Edwards winning that fight as well.
It was a late replacement for him at upper weight than the one he was preparing for. I think you can suggest that possibly if it had been always at featherweight and Peter McGrail had a full camp and Rhys Edwards had a full camp, it might have even been
completely different
closer to Rhys Edwards. If it was at super bantamweight, it probably would have been closer to Peter McGrail. It is what it was, but he did what he had to do ultimately.
Yeah.
But Jonathan Baluta's not going to be in there to let him do what he wants to do and move on. He's going to be there to cause a problem.
That's what he's known for. Brad Strand, full distance. Dennis McCann, got a draw against. I think that was because of a cut though, if I'm correct in saying. But yeah, he's going to obviously come and want to cause Peter McGrail some problems. He's probably looking at that Rhys Edwards fight and probably thinking, I've got a good chance here on Saturday night. And
let's not pretend as well though with Peter McGrail. Rhys Edwards is a top operator.
Well, look what's happening now. He's supposedly fighting for the British title.
He's a high level last minute replacement.
Yeah.
If that wasn't a Riyadh season card, you're getting in someone from South America who's got a few wins in Colombia and go, he's going to be a problem, and then you knock him out in the first round.
An Eastern European.
Yeah. Whereas Rhys Edwards is a high level replacement, and he beat him. You can't dispute the fact that he did enough to win. He might have done enough to get a draw or possibly lose narrowly, but he did also do enough to win him, depending on how you saw it. So I think he'll probably come out the better on Baluta, but it'll be a good fight to watch. And if it wasn't a good fight to watch, you've got a pretty decent undercard on there as well.
There's so many names on there. I'll give you two because I
was going to say there's two I want.
I've got one.
There's one. I've been on the hype train for a very long time. Put him on my top 5 British prospects to watch this year. Giorgio Visioli, a quality fighter, so good. Really exciting, a lovely guy. I haven't spoken to him, but when I put him in there, he messaged me, said thank you, told me when his next fight was, said some nice words. So I've been on the hype train for a long time, and I'm not getting off. I'm hiding in the toilets. I've not paid my fare, but I'm staying on the hype train till the end. I think he will be special, and it's another fight against someone you expect him to obliterate, because
who's got a winning record as well.
He does have a winning record, but I don't think it's one against of any note where you think, this could be a problem here. Mm-hmm. He's too good for that. And the other one is tiah-mai from Bristol. Obviously, I say that wearing a Leeds shirt. That's a fair contradiction, but I live in Bristol, so it's fine, just about. Tia's a quality fighter coming out of the amateurs. Just had an interview with her dropped yesterday as this came out. So obviously check that out. I'll try and remember to put a card somewhere above here, I think it is, or maybe here. For those watching on YouTube, you should see that. Spotify,
I think it's over your
pointed.
Head.
I can't remember.
I think it's over your end.
I'm not bright enough.
It's there right now. It should be.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
I'll completely forget that.
Yeah, Tia's 21 fights as an amateur, 9 stoppages, which as a featherweight amateur female, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. Female boxers get less knockouts. That's not me being, before you come for me, the woke brigade, all that good stuff. I'm an ally. She's a brilliant fighter. Really exciting. I've watched a few of her fights on where I could find them on YouTube and stuff. She looks quality. She's part of Sky Nicholson's last camp against Tiara Brown. and if you're sparring with a WBC champion at 18 years old, you're doing something right. So yeah, those are the two that I'm looking out for.
Okay,
big
Pat
time.
Brown for me.
I thought you might.
You talk about being on the hype train with Visioli. After that performance where for me, it's very rare that you see someone make their professional debut and be the main event. And he did that. And yeah, I'm on the hype train of Pat Brown. Expect him to easily breeze past his opponent who's got a record of 5-5. He's also scheduled a fight, I believe, July 5th as well. So like in a couple of weeks' time as well. So
you got to remember as well, he's got the performance of the year so far in the sense of getting Dave Allen on his back.
I know.
I'm
quite surprised he's fighting mine.
That is the most impressive performance of this year I've seen.
It wasn't steady though, was it?
It wasn't comfortable. No. It didn't look right.
There was obviously someone hopefully walking.
You know those like fancy dress costumes where it's like someone has like fake legs.
Yeah.
And it looks like that. That's what it looked like. Yeah. It didn't look real.
He's seen something special, mind, I think. And
see, again, similar to Teremoana, like we spoke about earlier in the episode. I think
always seen of him that he can punch.
He's a commercially brilliant fighter for Matchroom. Can he punch?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be saying this if he was stood in front of me. But I maybe expected a touch better a performance from that. And it might have just been a rush of blood kind of main event excitable performance. I'd like to see a bit more of a polished performance from him before I can sort of pinpoint him and where he can get to. But the cruiserweight division domestically is, stacked.
Yeah.
And in the world, you've got Jai Opetaia and Zerdo Ramirez who are as good as they come. So he's got plenty of time to, polish those tools before he's going to be getting in some title fights. But like you say, powerful guy, which at the end of the day can cause anyone problems. A few other fights on there. Brahim Suleiman, decent fight, or decent fighter. Aaron Bowen's been in a few interesting...
What a fight he was in, mine, with James Todd.
Yeah.
Unbelievable
He's been
fight.
in a few interesting clashes. And then Brian Norman Jr. fighting Jin Sasaki over in Japan as well. We'll do the predictions for that Matchroom card in a moment.
Thursday.
That's on Thursday. Brian Norman Jr. is obviously a great champion, great fighter. Jin Sasaki, I remember watching his last fight, and he is relentless. He's got a draw and a loss on his record, which I haven't seen those fights, so I can't comment on. But I just remember thinking, this guy just keeps on coming, and he hits, and he can take a bang, and he was in a really good 50-50 test on that night. So it'll be interesting to see how Brian Norman Jr. has got to be the favourite. But it would be enough, I think, to cause him give him a few questions to answer.
It's a sort of fight as well that us British fans love watching, these sort of fights over in Japan. I just love watching boxing in Japan, that...
In the morning, for us.
With our cereal, coffee and all that, instead of a beer on a Saturday night. Brian Norman Jr., there's something about him, I think. And for him to go to Japan, you can't really say into the Lions Den in Japan because they're so respectful.
I was going to say, it's not going to be, it's not like, a cold rainy night in Stoke or anything.
But it's a decent fight for him. I want to say it might be his first pro fight outside of America as well.
Let's have a quick look.
Oh, no.
He's done one in Mexico, outside of North America.
North America we'll go for then. But, decent little fight. Look at that division, mind.
Yeah, Boots Ennis up at the top. Devin Haney now up there as well, of course.
And there's our British boys there, Lewis Crocker, Jack Catterall as well.
Yeah, Jack Catterall obviously stepping up for the Harlem Eubank fight. You've got Lewis Crocker's doing the rematch against Paddy Donovan.
Great fight.
Etc, etc. Be interesting to see what happens in there, but before all of that...
Predictions.
On the Boxing News app, you can play alongside us if you want, but if not, we just use it to
We haven't been counting the last couple of weeks, have we?
Because they've not been on there. They've been slacking on us. We just do this to get a kind of a one-up on each other, to be honest. It's just to fuel our...
You don't see the WhatsApp group.
Ben's doesn't count this week, does it? Because he's not on the episode. Are we agreeing on that?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, I'll beat him anyway. But, just why not? We can agree on that. Let's have a look. You've got it loaded up already, don't you?
Yes.
So I'm just going to stall while mine loads quickly. And, oh, great, it's logged me out.
Just more waffle, please.
Just more waffle. Why don't you tell us which
the
first fight is?
Peter McGrail, Baluta, super bantamweight, 10 rounds. We all know what to expect from Baluta. He's not going to be an easy fight for McGrail, but I do believe McGrail's got enough and would have learnt a lot from that Reece Edwards fight, improved, and I believe that he'll get the decision win in a close-ish fight. Not split, but I think it'll be close.
Fair enough, yeah. I've got him as a points decision win. I think it'll be slightly wider than you've predicted it, but we'll have to wait and see. I've got to watch you now because you're just going to go for what the boxing. Now you're back on the boxing news app. You're just going to
My predictions are already made.
What the percentages are. Conor Walker, Liam Taylor, welterweight 12 rounder.
I saw that there.
What? Just have a look.
He's checking the stats on the
just
app
have a look
as well.
I know what Conor Walker's all about.
And I do. We're both going to agree, I think, on our prediction yet.
Liam Taylor points decision.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Conor Walker stoppage.
I really hope Conor Walker stops him. I love Conor Walker, but he's had a few near misses, and I think maybe he's going to have another one. Galal Yafai is going to stop Francisco Rodriguez Jr., I believe.
Yafai by points.
Ooh, so
wide decision.
We're going to have a winner this week. I think that one's bound to be wide, isn't it? That's almost
How many rounds?
30.
Fit.
30 as well.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Nice and easy. That was nice and easy without Ben. That was nice and quick, wasn't it? We say you slow us down, but I reckon he's the problem.
I know, but we've got so much content on the channel as well now, haven't we? Interviews from last Saturday. Joshua John, brilliant British title eliminator fight over in Bristol. We got Anton Haskins, Matt Lawrence, an exciting prospect coming out of Bristol there. You had a brilliant interview yesterday, drop on the channel as well, 4 o'clock.
Tier 18, yeah.
Someone to get excited about. How old is she? 18.
18, yeah.
Making a professional debut, signed with Matchroom.
And then 18 used to be 18 stone, maybe, I don't know. That's not exactly. Willie Gilhaney.
Yeah.
Great interview with him down in Enzo's gym over in Swansea. And then before that, I think I had this fight up-and-coming guy, Daniel Dubois, we spoke to as well.
Mental. When he messaged us on the group chat, mind, no one knows this, but he said, oh yeah, I might be meeting Daniel Dubois. Just so not like, imagine if that was me or Ben, I think we would have been more in your face with it.
Yeah.
You were just got an interview with Daniel
I've always
Dubois.
I'm known for being humble. I like to
Still humble.
I like to keep it quiet.
3 pair of trainers he had as well. Did he get me and Ben a pair? Come on now.
Okay, right, hear me out. So I've said, can I have some T-shirts for the other guys on the podcast? They go, you can have one. I can't pick between the two of them.
So
bear in mind as well,
that's good to know because he hasn't got a favourite.
They didn't have a triple XL for Ben either, so I just got an XL for my dad and called it quits. My mum got a pair of shorts. Sophie got a bag. So I think I did my due diligence. I was very kind.
Done your Christmas shopping already in June.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done.
And my running trainers for me, so I'm happy.
They do look decent, mine.
And obviously an interview with the world heavyweight champion.
With the best handshake at the end as well.
Oh, God.
High five, fist bump.
Yeah, that was...
I love how you kept it in as well. So
I had to leave
take
it in.
your hat
It
off.
wasn't my finest work. And on that note, before so I can go and recover from my embarrassment, my second-hand embarrassment again, I think that just about wraps it up for another episode of the Puncher's Chance podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. There's going to be no preview show later in the week, obviously, because we've previewed this one, but check out all the other content on the channel that we maybe put in the cards or whatever. There's lots of great stuff at the moment to catch up on, so catch up on all of that. If you haven't already, watch our 100th special as well. And subscribe because we're knocking on the door with 1,000 subscribers. We're nearly there, so keep pushing for us. Follow us on Spotify if you listen on the audio episode or you prefer to listen in the audio. I know we're not great looking, so maybe that's for the best. Twitter, lots of great content everywhere at the moment. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.
Oh no.
Done it again.
We did it.
Done it again.
Puncher's Chance. Puncher's Chance podcast.